you're just joining us, you're watching Business Morning. The Central Bank of Nigeria says ensuring financial stability and protecting depositors' funds are its top priorities at the moment. Now, it's like I mentioned earlier, we'll be focusing on the central bank's latest move against some 3 of the rescued banks, and I'll be talking to Wale Oluwo, who'll be coming from BGL Group. But before we go into that, let's check with the money and FX market last week. Now, interbank lending rates ended the week at a 7.2% average on cash outflows from the market. We saw some cash outflows into treasury bills purchases and, of course, the foreign exchange purchases, specifically the Central Bank of Nigeria's WDAS, as its wholesale Dutch auction system that it holds on Mondays and Wednesdays. So we saw some of the rates trending upwards last week. Now, still with the market, the open buyback, that's a secured open buyback instruments for the banks and discount houses, closed at a 6.8% average from 6.5% the previous week. Now, overnight placement climbed to 7.25% from 7% previously, while core money ended higher at 7.75%. Now, according to market traders, the market remains relatively liquid and they don't expect any sharp rise in rates for the week. Now, the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and officials of the Asset Management Company of Nigeria at a press briefing on Friday met with journalists, and of course they announced the taking over of 3 of the banks rescued by the Central Bank of Nigeria in 2009. I'll play a track now, some of the visuals from that meeting on Friday, where the MD of the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, Mr. Umar Ibrahim, and of course the MD of the AMCON, that's Asset Management Company of Nigeria, Mr. Chike Obi, spoke at the meeting. Let's listen to what they said.
The NDIC and the AMCON, after intensive negotiations throughout last night, are pleased to announce that we have signed an agreement today, which we're about to do anyway. So today, August 6, for AMCON to acquire the 3 bridge banks. The acquisition and transfer of ownership has been effected through a subscription agreement with each of the 3 banks. By the subscription agreement, AMCON will become the owner of the 3 banks and will provide sufficient capital to restore the banks to the level of capital adequacy stipulated for their operations. With the successful sale of the bridge banks, the NDIC has fulfilled its primary objective of ensuring that depositors in the banks do not lose their funds, in line with the avowed commitment of the federal government and indeed Mr. President, that the Nigerian depositors do not suffer the trauma associated with bank failures. The capital provided by AMCON through shares subscription will strengthen the bank's liquidity to enable them carry on business and meet all their obligations as they fall due. Consequently, the banks are in a position to repay the loans obtained from the CBN. The liquidity position of the banks is further enhanced by the willingness of the CBN to extend the guarantee of their interbank obligations until December 31st of this year. AMCON has identified independent and credible persons with significant and required experience to fill the board and senior management positions for the banks and will be seeking the approval of the CBN for their appointments. AMCON is confident that the new teams will manage the banks to establish strong market positions and effectively compete in the Nigerian banking sector, providing quality service to their customers and value to shareholders. Following the successful sale of the 3 bridge banks, the NDIC is proud of the action taken to safeguard depositors' funds pursuant to our Act. The corporation shall continue to work with the CBN and other regulatory agencies to ensure that the continued stability and confidence in the Nigerian financial system.
I just want to emphasize that this was done with a lot of thought, a lot of consultation, and the primary objective is to stabilize the banking system because we need a stable banking system. Also, we want to emphasize no depositor will lose a kobo. That was the mandate given to the authorities, and that's the mandate that we're all pursuing. The depositors' funds are safe. The employees are safe. These banks will now operate in a stronger position than they were yesterday. It is the intent that AMCON will oversee these banks. The management will manage these banks as going concerns, and CBN will regulate these banks as pursuant to its mandate. This is not a case of government interference. This is a case of government doing what government is supposed to do and stabilizing the system in a responsible fashion. This is all being done in pursuance to the AMCON Act 2010, which created AMCON as a resolution vehicle for these kind of events. And we hope that these banks will, in the future, be seen as shining, individual, competitive entities that will survive in their own right. So please reassure the depositors and the employees that this was done with their goodwill in mind, and that we'll continue with that thought in mind.